should be a good issue for Democrats. It's certainly one they're associated with. And I think the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching. Telling a company, you can't dump the waste from your hog farm straight into the water supply. We're mostly all for that. But Democrats have become a parody of themselves, just making rules to make rules because it makes you feel like you're a better person. Making sure that everything bad never happens again, which you can never fully do. It just makes everyone else's life a drag. The Biden infrastructure bill has a provision that requires all new cars to install an alert system that goes off when you leave a baby in the back seat, which is something done only by crackheads and people who sadly, yes, do it on purpose. And after every one of us winds up bearing the cost for cars to install this alarm, you know who's going to ignore it? Crackheads and people who do it on purpose.
Bill Maher recently threw out a remark about the media frenzy that caught everyone's attention. Known for standing firmly on the liberal side, Maher took aim at the so-called woke crowd, accusing them of failing to push back against voices from the center and the right. The way he framed it left quite an impression, far from flattering. So let's break it down right here, right now.
Now, the right-wingers say what you want about them, but they talk to you. They're not into this leftist thing. The left really has much more of a, I don't talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, you're deplorable, I can't break bread with you. That attitude, and like all the right-wingers, they don't have that attitude. Now, I didn't vote for them.
Bill Maher has recently put his stance out in the open, and it's clear where he's heading. For years, he has been a consistent voice on the left. But now he says the situation has become impossible to overlook. According to Maher, genuine conversation has all but vanished within today's progressive circles. Instead of engaging with different viewpoints, they wall themselves off in echo chambers and protective bubbles. It's no wonder he sounds frustrated. After all, if one side refuses to even acknowledge the other's perspective, how can progress ever happen? Maher argues that the left desperately needs this reality check, but they continue to brush it aside.
He's a human being. He's not a monster.
And a husband and a father.
Yes, and I liked him. I like them all. They're all nice people when you meet them in person, and they're not as crazy as they would. Nobody's as crazy as they.
And that, Maher argues, is the heart of his frustration with today's left. The moment someone voices a different opinion, they're branded as the enemy. Disagree on policy? You're instantly labeled a villain. Question the narrative? Suddenly, you're painted as an oppressor. Push back even slightly? Congratulations, you've been promoted to fascist. But this knee-jerk labeling goes beyond shutting down discussion. It corrodes it. Instead of fostering genuine constructive debates, critics are mocked and cast as villains, leaving no room for honest dialogue. The result? The right ends up being attacked in ways that lack substance because the focus isn't on ideas but on insults. At its core, it's nothing more than name-calling dressed up as moral outrage.
You can't handle real dialogue, only cheap name-calling.
Pressing enough. Having just had a birthday and being 66, please don't ask me to start doing grown-up things like run for president. A few weeks ago, Fox News' Dana Perino, a former Bush press secretary, suggested that the Democrats should recruit me to run for president, which is kind of special because it means that in the space of 20 years, Bush press secretaries have gone from telling me I need to watch what I say.
They need to watch what they say, watch what they do, and this is not a time for remarks like that. There never is.
I've gone from that to wondering if I should run for president.
It'll be interesting to see if Bill Maher is recruited to run for...
Bill Maher might never come out and say it, but much of his thinking now tilts toward the right. While he still identifies as a liberal, his critiques of extremism, left-wing intolerance, and cancel culture tend to resonate more with conservatives than with progressives. This shift has led some journalists and commentators to wonder aloud what a Maher-led campaign, especially if it carried a Republican label, could look like. Imagine the irony if he were to embrace the very kind of traditional liberal he once clashed with and use that alliance as his political trump card.
Let's get this straight. It's not me who's changed. It's the left. who is now made up of a small contingent who've gone mental and a large contingent who refuse to call them out for it. But I will. That's why I'm a hero at Fox.
Life's purpose is to grow, to mature, and to keep learning. With time and experience, everyone's beliefs and ideas shift, often becoming outdated or less accurate reflections of reality. And that's perfectly normal. Real growth means self-awareness, adaptability, and a stronger sense of practical wisdom. But here's where the problem lies. Today's left seems stuck. Instead of evolving, they cling to rigid, outdated, and often unreasonable rules. And while most people gain perspective as they age, this group refuses to step outside their bubble or reconsider even the smallest point. It's as if denial has become their way of life.
Which shows just how much liberals have their head up their ass, because if they really thought about it, they would have made me a hero on their media. But that can't happen in this ridiculous new era of mind-numbing partisanship, where if I keep it real about the nonsense in the Democratic Party, it makes me an instant hero to Republicans. The same thing happened in reverse to Darth Vader's daughter, Liz Cheney, who's now a hero to liberals simply because she recognizes Biden did not steal the last election. What I said...
Liberals' hypersensitivity to criticism borders on absurd. The moment you point out their flaws, they react as though you've committed a crime, shouting, cutting you off, refusing to listen. Just ask Bill Maher. For years, he proudly waved the progressive flag and stood as one of its strongest champions. But the second he started questioning their sacred woke ideals, the cheers turned to boos. Overnight, their hero became a villain. That's how the left operates. Follow the script and you're celebrated. Raise a single objection and you're torn down. So much for open-mindedness and tolerance, it ends up being nothing but an empty slogan.
Simply acknowledging reality is now seen as a profile in courage. People sometimes say to me, you didn't used to make fun of the left as much. Yeah, because they didn't give me so much to work with. The oath of office I took was to comedy. And if you do goofy shit, wherever you are on the spectrum, I'm going to make fun of you because that's where the gold is. And the fact that they are laughing at it should tell you something. It rings true.
Let's be real. The left can no longer claim to be the voice of reason. What they've turned into looks less like a movement and more like a circus. Just look around. Endless purity tests, shouting matches masquerading as discussions, and a cancel culture so ruthless it devours its own faster than a school of piranhas. The most striking part? A handful of brave voices on the left are finally admitting what many already see. The movement has spiraled into a toxic mess. Even California's prize star, Gavin Newsom, has publicly conceded the obvious. When your own poster child is begging for disinfectant, it's clear the rot has gone too deep. The left doesn't just need a cleanup, it needs a full reset, maybe even an exorcism, and yet, as they wade in their own mess, they'll still find time to lecture the rest of us about morality.
When normal people read that San Francisco has basically legalized shoplifting, they think Democrats have gone nuts. They think, that Ted Cruz guy seems like a real stiff. But at least he believes in the concept of shopping with money.
Democrats have a peculiar talent. If something is harmful, bizarre, or downright revolting, they'll find a way to legalize it, normalize it, and parade it as progress. Take shoplifting, for example. In city after city, penalties have been watered down so much that thieves can stroll out of stores with armfuls of goods while honest business owners are left powerless. Then there's homelessness. Instead of tackling the crisis head on, they prop up tent encampments on sidewalks and call it compassion. The result? Filthy streets littered with garbage, needles, and even human waste rebranded as tolerance. It's a collapse of basic common sense. Ordinary Americans are expected not only to put up with this chaos, but to applaud it as though it were some noble step forward. The truth is, Democrats don't solve problems. They twist them, daring anyone to object by redefining disaster as justice.
It's not my fault that the party of FDR and JFK is turning into the party of LOL and WTF. Members of Congress tweeting things like cancel rent, cancel mortgage, and no more policing or incarceration. declaring that capitalism is slavery, canceling Lincoln and Dr. Seuss, teaching children they're oppressors and math is racist, making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral, and now an emoji for pregnant men. Real. I'm not making it.
Honestly, comedians hardly need to write new material anymore. The Democrats provide enough punchlines on their own. Their policies are so absurd, they practically write the late-night monologues themselves. Take their grand idea of defunding the police. At a time when crime is climbing, they believe the answer is fewer officers. Who needs safety, right? Just roll out chaos like it's a red carpet and watch the nation edge closer to a Mad Max scene. And then there's their prized cancel culture, the crown jewel of their nonsense. Marketed as justice, it's really just a high-tech witch hunt. Careers destroyed, voices silenced, and social media turned into a firing squad. It's left behind wreckage on a scale that can't be ignored, yet Democrats insist on parading it as something noble. The irony? They don't even need comedians to lampoon them. They're already doing a remarkable job of mocking themselves.
California just passed a law requiring large retailers to have a non-gendered toy section. A non-gendered toy section? Isn't Ken enough? We need a law for that? You have to inject yourselves into everything, from where you can throw a frisbee to who can braid hair? This is why so many people, by the way, were triggered by COVID policies. They were already sick of rules.
If there's one thing California has perfected, it's overregulation. The state doesn't just govern, it micromanages nearly every part of life. Want to start a business? Get ready to wade through mountains of permits, licenses, and red tape that would make even the IRS blush. Thinking of driving your car? Better hope it meets the ever-changing emission standards dreamed up by bureaucrats who've likely never worked outside government. And housing? That's a nightmare of regulations, zoning laws, and endless requirements that drive costs sky high. Building anything in California can take years of paperwork and drain wallets long before the foundation is even laid. Sacramento isn't offering oversight, it's suffocating progress under its full weight. And then they wonder why so many people are packing up and leaving the state behind.
Regulation should be a good issue for Democrats. It's certainly one they're associated with. And I think the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching. Telling a company, you can't dump the waste from your hog farm straight into the water supply. We're mostly all for that. But Democrats have become a parody of themselves, just making rules to make rules because it makes you feel like you're a better person. Making sure that everything bad never happens again, which you can never fully do. It just makes everyone else's life great.
Maher drops yet another hard truth. Piling on rules just for the sake of having them doesn't build a better society. That isn't progress, it's suffocation. You can't expect people to flourish in a vibrant, creative culture if every word, thought, and action is placed under surveillance. The more restrictions we stack up, the more predictable and lifeless our culture becomes. Constant monitoring doesn't spark innovation. It kills it. Like a plant starved of air, human expression isn't meant to be micromanaged. It's meant to breathe, to push boundaries, to take risks. But today's obsession with political correctness and excessive control robs us of exactly that. Instead of originality and bold ideas, we get conformity, fear, and self-censorship. What could be energetic debate turns into stale repetition. Maher's point stands. Restricting freedom in the name of control doesn't create a stronger society. It leaves us with something weaker, dull, fragile, and stripped of joy.
The Biden infrastructure bill has a provision that requires all new cars to install an alert system that goes off when you leave a baby in the back seat, which is something done only by crackheads and people who sadly, yes, do it on purpose. And after every one of us winds up bearing the cost for cars to install this alarm, you know who's going to ignore it? Crackheads and people who do it on purpose.
In the end, Bill Maher has simply grown too big for today's left to contain. Honestly, he doesn't hesitate to call out hypocrisy, even when it clashes with his own long-held views. That's exactly what makes his words so powerful. Maher reminds us that real progress comes not from shutting people down or hiding inside echo chambers, but from being willing to rethink our views, grow as individuals, and engage in genuine conversation. He's shown how absurd it is to believe that piling on more rules will somehow improve society, when in reality it only silences dissent and suffocates creativity. Like it or not, Maher has shifted away from the rigid left toward the middle, and at times, even to the right. The irony couldn't be clearer. Once celebrated as a liberal icon, he now stands as proof that common sense doesn't belong to any one party. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed this take and want to see more content like it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.